This is DayTrader training video number 5. We're going to look at the trading day, December 11th, 2023. This time I'm going to do it a little different because I'm going to bring in one of my favorite day trading strategies. I did a video on this one in the past, a long time ago, looking at 8-minute charts. I think they're pretty good and I like it. I use it. And this is an 8-minute swing trade setup is what we're looking at, intraday. And we're going to apply the askSlim DayTrader information. So we're kind of putting it all together right now. And the 8-minute may fit really well for you. You may prefer some other time frames, but this is a great example, I think, of how to put it all together. Let's take a look now as we look at the key points for DayTrader, I want to make sure that we have a good understanding of how I'm applying this as we move forward. So I'm going to start out with an explanation of the strategy, the intraday swing trade style. And I'm going to apply that to DayTrader info, looking at the impulse monitor and the SIR grid. And we want to understand sizing. So the sizing of this strategy is really basic. It's essentially when the strategy sets up in one direction or the other. If the impulse monitor is reading in that direction, impulse on, then it's a 2-lot trade. It's real basic. If the impulse monitor is neutral, but the trade setup is there, then we do only a 1-lot trade. And the whole idea behind that is that you'll have bigger positions on when you're riding the bigger impulse. Then you can actually take trades when the impulse monitor is neutral, but still, I think you find out that you're going to be better off at times when the impulse monitor is telling you that there is energy in a specific motion, in a specific direction. So it's really important to think about it in those terms, because what we want to do is make sure that you see the valuable information in the energetic conditions in all of the indexes. So then you can decide which ones look like they're the best long side setups, short side setups, or maybe both, depending if you're willing to do pair trades. You don't have to have a position on all of the time. In other words, there's going to be some times when the market is very choppy, there's no setups going on, and there may be only a couple times during the day when you're trading a swing trade style that you do have positions on. There's some days when you may take a long ride on some things, and there's some days that are very choppy. The goal is to ride the big impulses for a larger profit. Choppy days may not yield much of a profit or even a small loss, no matter what style you're trading, except maybe if you're trading a style that you're just selling all the pops and buying all the sell-offs, and that is not a style that overall is going to yield a profit. Trending days will allow for bigger winners, and I'm telling you that if you can understand how to ride the energetic movements in the market, a 50-50 hit rate will yield profits because your winners are going to be significantly larger than your losers. We want to avoid being on the wrong side for the big loss. So you're going to see that this whole thing sets up to putting together a number of strategies that we look for an alignment in the strategies. Then when you may be in a trade, but then when the alignment changes, that's when the trade is off. And to me, it's a signal to exit and look for the next trade. If you miss the exact timing of a turn, it doesn't matter, because you're essentially going to be still riding the energetics in the market in the right direction. You might not take the long ride on something, but you still will be on the right side, and you will not catch every wiggle. And I said before, trying to do so is a losing strategy. Those traders that are using a strategy where they're scalping back and forth and they're selling when an oscillator is overbought and buying when it's oversold, they're going to end up having much bigger losing trades than winning trades, and it's an overall losing strategy. The winning strategy is getting on the right side for the long ride. Let's take a look at this trading day. This is December 11th, 2023. This is DayTrader training number 5 that we're looking at as we apply one of my favorite strategies, the 8-minute swing trade, intraday swing trade strategy, to using the information from the impulse monitor. So here's the setup that we have in here we're looking at. On the left side is the impulse monitor here on the opening, and this is a lower opening in the markets. Impulse monitor is all neutral, and we're waiting for a setup. This is at 8:40 a.m. Central Time, and the market, as you could see, just opened down. So remember, impulse monitor here, SIR grid right over here, and a lot of you are looking at this. Now I'm applying my 8-minute strategy right over here on the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and the Russell. That way I'm looking at 3 different indexes, and I can look for these alignments as they set up. I have a lot of bars in here. I could have made this smaller for you to see it a little bit better. And what we're looking at in here is the previous day. And you could see there were a lot of bullish alignments here in that previous day, and there was a nice ride to take on the upside. And that's what's so important. We're going to move forward in this day and see when things start to set up a little bit. Here's the SIR grid, and you can see in here the notes up here. The NASDAQ is the strongest at this point. Here you could see, yeah, it's a little hard to see, but the reversal scout on here is kind of rolling down. The same thing over here on the Russell, but you have a condition where the NASDAQ is moving up through the first acceleration zone, and it hit first resistance. This is clearly a sign that the NASDAQ is the strongest index. I want to identify that because if my trade is a long side trade, then it's going to be a trade that is likely going to be in the Russell, because you can see in here that the impulse monitor is green. So that's telling me the energies behind the market are positive. You can see that. Now look at here, you could see as I look at the S&P 500, this is curling down right over here. So even though the slim ribbon PO is green, these are coming down. So I have no trade here. The same thing you see here in the Russell, this is actually green and you have these coming down. But now you have right in here the trigger line right there, the timing line, the skinny one, and the longer one, the one for trend, is both pointing to the upside when this is green. That says to me the NASDAQ has a positive setup. It's around 16,126 right now, and because this is green and these are positive setups, I'm going to go with the 2 times size, right? 2 lots here on the long side in the NASDAQ futures. Let's just say we're using NASDAQ futures right over here. So that's what it's telling me right there. There's your setup right there, as you can see, and that says look for something on the long side. Now here we are looking at this setup, and look what's happened in here. My exit and entry line right over here, the fast reversal scout has turned down on this position. These are still coming down here on the NASDAQ and the Russell. And this to me says, okay, this trade's probably over. And I don't want to give up a lot out in here, trying to see if the trend is going to continue up, even though this is still positive. So therefore, to me, it's an exit. And I'm just going to say, okay, out. And it's right now about 20 points higher than it was, so it's a 40-point winner. If you did a 2-lot, it's $800. So not bad on that. Nice winner, as you can see. And why did it work? It worked because the energies were moving to the upside. So the highest probability was that this would continue on the upside until it told me that it was time, that it was losing some energy. And I'm really using the most conservative way I can in this, using just that short-term reversal scout there on a 13 bar, which is sensitive, and it's telling me that when the energies are disappearing just on a very, very short term. And so I'm going to use that strong discipline and get out. So it's a 20-point winner. It's not so bad. And you can see in here, looking at the SIR grid, the NASDAQ is stalling at resistance, and it didn't get into that next acceleration zone. So I feel okay about this being an exit based on what it's telling. Remember, we're using 2 reversals, 2 reversal scouts in here. So one is a trend and one is timing, is really what I'm using that for. Okay, so let's move on in here. So here we are. And you can see that we're in a condition again where the impulse monitor is mixed. The Russell has all aligned to the negative side. So this is a negative setup. These are moving down right over here. And right there, you can see that the slim ribbon PO has turned red on the bottom. It's a little hard to see that, so I'm explaining that to you. That says to me that, at this point, you can see the Russell's weak over here, and the weakest of all of the indexes. It's very clear looking at this here. So if I'm going to take a short side trade, it's going to be when the impulse monitor is red, as you can see, telling me there's negative energy behind the Russell, and that this is now moving to the downside. So that says to me, because this is red on the impulse monitor and not neutral, if it was yellow, I would be taking a one lot trade, but in this case, it's a 2-lot trade. So that to me looks like a short side trade right over there, and that would be the point where I'd be initiating it. Now something is happening right over here. And that is, you can see that we're getting an upward move here in the NASDAQ as it moves into the acceleration zone. And when is that? That's only 20 minutes later. So this is the short position here in the short setup in the Russell. And here we are 20 minutes later, and this is now turning up here on the Russell, and we're starting to get upward movement into acceleration zone. I don't really want to be in this trade anymore. It's a short side trade. It's telling me not. But these are moving up sharply to the upside, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. What happened? Well, because this is so much weaker, I get to scratch the trade. It's still at 1876, not so bad, and I can see I'm on the wrong side of this market. So then I want to get out. So I just cover the trade. It's a scratch. Could be a loser of a point or so, but if it is, it wouldn't be meaningful because we're looking for big trades and everything. That's the goal. Catch the bigger trades, and that's what we're going to look to do. So scratch the trade. It makes sense to me. Let's move on. Here we are at 11:19 a.m. Now something is happening in here. We have, as you could see, on the NASDAQ, we have positive energies as shown on the slim ribbon PO here. We have an upward turn in our signal line and an upward turn in our trending indicator here. And that all says to me there's upward energy coming in. And look what's going on here. Impulse monitors turn green on all 3 indexes. And we're starting to get an upward move right over here back into the acceleration zone in the NASDAQ. This all says to me there is upside energy coming into the market, and I want to be a buyer at this point. Remember, I want to be on the right side of the big impulses, and sometimes the market's going to chop me up, and I'm not going to be able to make any money on those days. And sometimes it's going to take a run based on what it's telling me. Now, let's take a look at what happened here based on this. So what did I do? I took a positive setup at 16,162 in the NASDAQ. So this is at 11:19 a.m. Here we are 3 minutes later, and what's happened? You got the upward movement in these reversal scouts here. Remember, we're looking at 8-minute reversal scouts right there and right there. And you're getting positive turns in the slim ribbon POs right over here. And this is all telling me there are bullish setups going on. So I'm already have a bullish setup at 16,162 in the NASDAQ at 16,1. That's the wrong number. It's 16,172. I put in the wrong number right there. So it's up about 12 points right over at that point. And the S&P 500 is 4609 and the Russell's at 1879. And this is a potential add-on right there. So the NASDAQ has moved up about 12 points. But I'm not taking a profit here. There's nothing that says to. If anything, I see more energy coming in the market. And you could, if you wanted to, if you could go to a 3-lot in the NASDAQ, that could work. Or you could maybe add on and do a trade in the S&P 500 or the Russell. I would not choose the Russell because it looks the weakest as you look here at the SIR grid. But with the NASDAQ entering those acceleration zones there, I really just want to hold a position and maybe add an S&P 500 there. So what happens now? Here we are at 125. So this was at 1122. This is at 125. you can see the market just absolutely took off on the upside. And this is the first time that the signal line right over here turned down here and here. This would be the point that you'd want to exit positions that I see. And you're never going to catch the top on these, but you want to take the long ride. In this case, the NASDAQ gives us the signal at 16,220. And that's a 58-point gain, 58 points in the NASDAQ times 2, that's 116 points. If you're trading the futures, they're $20 a point, so you have about a $2,300 winning trade in that right over there. And of course, you've got the S&P 500 if you add it on. That was about 9 points higher at that point, and the Russell only gained 5 points during that time frame. It still would be a winning trade if you took that as everything got positive. So you can see that we had a very nice setup. I'm just going to go back a couple slides here. Everything positive right over here. Took that long in the NASDAQ at 16,162. And I'm saying that I would have taken the long. Actually, these are not trades that I did because doing other things, but this is the reality of how I would trade it based on the strategy that we're looking at and all of the information that we have. And so it's 16,162 in the NASDAQ, up to 16,220 in the NASDAQ right over there, and a solid upside gain.